The rain pelted against my apartment window like tiny fists demanding entry, matching the pounding in my chest. I stood in the cramped bathroom, staring at the pregnancy test on the edge of the sink, the 2 pink lines blurring through my tears. 5 tests, all positive. My hands trembled as I picked up my phone, scrolling to Michael's number. 7 weeks since he'd disappeared with the rent money, my savings, and apparently something more permanent. "You need to know what you did," I typed, anger and desperation fueling each word. "I'm pregnant, and it's yours. You can't just walk away from this." I hit send before I could reconsider, then slumped against the cold tile wall, sliding down until I hit the floor. The tiny studio apartment closed in around me. Bills covered the kitchen counter, most stamped with final notices in angry red letters. My waitressing job barely covered food, let alone the back rent or the doctor's visits I'd need. The phone in my hand vibrated, and my heart leapt to my throat. Unknown number calling. I hesitated, then answered. "Michael?" Silence stretched across the line, followed by a voice that definitely wasn't Michael's, deep, controlled, with the slightest hint of an accent I couldn't place. "I believe you have the wrong number." My chest tightened. "I'm sorry, but I'm curious," the voice continued, something dangerous threading through the words. "Who is this Michael, and what exactly did he do?" I ended the call immediately, my fingers shaking so badly I dropped the phone. I quickly checked the message I'd sent. The number was different from Michael's by a single digit. Horror washed over me as I realized what I'd done. Confessed my pregnancy to a complete stranger. 3 sharp knocks at my door made me jump. No one ever visited me. I crept toward the entrance, peering through the peephole. A tall figure in a black coat stood in the hallway, shoulders broad enough to block most of my view. Probably just a neighbor or maintenance. I cracked the door open, chain still in place. "Can I help you?" His eyes locked with mine, dark and calculating, taking in every detail of my face. Not a neighbor. Definitely not maintenance. The air in the hallway seemed to shift, growing thicker, charged with something I couldn't name. He wore an expensive suit beneath his coat, a contrast to the dingy hallway of my apartment building. His presence felt like a shadow falling across my entire life. "You can start by inviting me in, miss." His voice was the same as the one on the phone, the one that had called me back moments after my misdirected text. "I don't know who you are," I managed, my voice barely above a whisper, the corner of his mouth curved slightly. Not quite a smile. "My name is Alexander Volkov. And you just sent me a very interesting message meant for someone else." My grip tightened on the door. "That was a mistake. I apologize. A mistake worth discussing." His gaze traveled down to my midsection, then back to my face. "Especially if this Michael has left you in a difficult situation." A tall figure appeared behind him, a man with an earpiece and an expressionless face. A bodyguard. The reality of who might be standing at my door began to dawn on me. "I don't want any trouble," I said, moving to close the door. His hand shot out, palm flat against the wood, stopping it effortlessly. "Neither do I, which is why we should talk." A pregnant woman, abandoned, sending desperate messages. His voice softened, almost imperceptibly. "I can help. I don't need help from someone I don't know." "You need help from someone. Your door suggests you can't pay rent, your eyes say you haven't slept, and your message says you're carrying a child with no father in sight." His assessment cut through me like a blade. "I'm offering assistance, not charity." Something in his words, in the way he stood there, powerful, commanding, made me hesitate. I was drowning, and he appeared to be offering a lifeline. In my exhaustion and desperation, I made the first of many mistakes. I closed the door, unhooked the chain, and let him in. He entered my apartment like he was walking into a boardroom, assessing everything with a swift, calculating gaze. I felt the smallness of my life reflected in his eyes, the secondhand furniture, the water stain on the ceiling, the meager contents of my open refrigerator. "How far along are you?" he asked, turning back to me. 7 weeks. I answered automatically, then cursed myself for volunteering information to a stranger. "Look, Mr. Volkov, I appreciate whatever you're offering, but you don't even know what I'm offering yet." He moved toward my kitchenette, fingers trailing across the stack of bills. "Tell me about Michael. That's not your concern. It became my concern when you mistakenly chose to involve me." He picked up an eviction notice, eyes scanning it briefly. "Boyfriend? Husband? Ex-boyfriend," I replied, wrapping my arms around myself. He took everything and disappeared. Alexander set down the notice, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. "And now you're pregnant with his child." I nodded, suddenly feeling lightheaded. The room swayed slightly, and I grabbed the edge of the counter for support. In an instant, his hand was on my elbow, steadying me. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through my body. "When did you last eat?" he asked, his voice closer now, breath warming my ear. I tried to remember. "Yesterday? Maybe." He made a sound of disapproval, guiding me to the single chair at my small table. "Sit." My body obeyed before my mind could protest. He pulled out his phone, murmured something in what sounded like Russian, then returned it to his pocket. "Food will be here shortly," he said, taking a position against the counter, studying me. "Now, tell me everything about this Michael. Full name, where he worked, friends, habits." "Why do you care?" I asked, suspicion finally breaking through my haze of exhaustion. "Let's say I have a particular distaste for men who abandon their responsibilities." His expression remained neutral, but something flashed in his eyes, something cold and dangerous, especially when it involves a child. 20 minutes later, a man arrived with bags of food from an upscale restaurant I could never afford. Alexander directed him to set everything on the counter, then dismissed him with a nod. The rich aromas made my stomach clench painfully. As I ate, I found myself telling him everything. How I'd met Michael at the restaurant where I worked. How charming he'd been. How he'd moved in after just 2 months. How one day I came home to find him gone, along with my savings and anything else of value. Alexander listened silently, his expression revealing nothing. When I finished eating, he stood. "Pack a bag," he said simply. "Excuse me?" "You need medical attention, proper nutrition, and a stable environment." He gestured around the apartment. "This is not it." Alarm bells rang in my head. "I'm not going anywhere with you. You misunderstand. I'm not asking." He moved toward the door. "You have 5 minutes. Bring what matters. Leave the rest." "You can't just—" "5 minutes," he repeated, checking his watch. "I have a doctor waiting." "A doctor? I don't need—" 4 minutes, 50 seconds. I stood, anger flaring. "Who the hell do you think you are?" He turned back, and the look in his eyes froze the words in my throat. "I'm the man who received your cry for help. I'm the man with the resources to ensure your child has a chance, and I'm the man who will find Michael and make him answer for abandoning his responsibilities." He stepped closer, his presence enveloping me. "But most importantly, I'm the man giving you a choice right now between pride and survival." My hand moved instinctively to my stomach. The baby. I had to think about the baby now. "1 bag," I said finally, "and I want to know where we're going." A slight nod. "Acceptable." As I threw essentials into a duffel bag, my phone buzzed with a text from the same unknown number. His number. "Your mistake may prove fortunate for us both." What I didn't realize then, as I followed him down to the sleek black SUV waiting outside, was that I had just traded one cage for another. A gilded one, perhaps, but a cage nonetheless. I had texted the wrong number and somehow ended up in the right hands. Or the most dangerous ones possible. My life changed with a mistyped digit. A single mistaken text, a momentary lapse that would tie me forever to a man whose name made people tremble. The car glided through the rain-slicked streets like a shark through dark waters. I sat rigid in the back seat, the leather too soft, too expensive against my worn jeans. Alexander sat beside me, not touching, yet somehow filling the entire space with his presence. His driver and the bodyguard occupied the front seats, silent sentinels separating us from the outside world. "Where exactly are we going?" I asked, watching familiar streets transform into the affluent part of the city I rarely visited. "My private physician first," Alexander replied, not looking up from his phone. "Then somewhere safe." Safe. The word hung between us, loaded with implications. Safe from what? From whom? From him? I pressed myself closer to the door, seeking distance. "I don't even know who you are," I whispered, more to myself than to him. His fingers paused over the screen of his phone. You know my name. A name doesn't tell me anything. He turned then, dark eyes assessing me with that unnerving intensity. What would you like to know? Everything. Nothing. I wasn't sure anymore. What do you do? I own things, he said simply. Businesses, properties. I solve problems. And I'm a problem you're solving? The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. You're a situation I'm choosing to address. Before I could respond, the car pulled into an underground parking garage beneath a gleaming high-rise. The driver came around to open my door, but Alexander was already there, offering his hand. I hesitated, then took it, feeling calluses I hadn't expected on a man whose suit probably cost more than 6 months of my rent. His touch was warm, firm, sending an involuntary shiver up my arm. I pulled away quickly, clutching my bag to my chest like a shield. The elevator required a keycard, which Alexander produced from his pocket. We ascended in silence, the soft hum of machinery the only sound. I caught my reflection in the mirrored walls. Pale face, dark circles under my eyes, hair hastily pulled back. Beside me, Alexander looked carved from stone, perfect and untouchable. The doors opened to a pristine medical suite, all white and chrome, nothing like the crowded clinic I'd visited when I first suspected I was pregnant. A middle-aged man in a lab coat approached immediately, nodding deferentially to Alexander. Mr. Volkov. Dr. Petrova, Alexander replied. This is... He paused, looking at me with a raised eyebrow. I realized he didn't even know my name. Emma, I supplied. Emma Carter. Miss Carter requires a full examination, Alexander continued smoothly. She's approximately 7 weeks pregnant and hasn't been receiving proper care or nutrition. The doctor's eyes flickered between us, a question in them that he was too professional to ask aloud. Of course. This way, Miss Carter. I balked, suddenly terrified. I don't... Emma... Alexander's voice was soft, but left no room for argument. You need to be examined, for the baby's sake. The baby. My hand moved instinctively to my stomach again. I nodded, following the doctor, feeling Alexander's eyes on my back with every step. The examination was thorough but gentle. Blood drawn, vitals taken, questions asked in a clinical, non-judgmental tone. When the ultrasound wand touched my abdomen, I gasped at the cold gel. There, Dr. Petrova said, pointing to a tiny flicker on the screen, your baby's heartbeat. Tears sprang to my eyes unbidden. A heartbeat, real and strong and undeniable. My baby. Is the baby okay? I asked, voice trembling. The heartbeat is strong, he confirmed. But you're anemic, underweight, and showing signs of extreme stress, none of which is ideal for fetal development. He cleaned the gel from my skin with clinical efficiency. I'm prescribing prenatal vitamins, iron supplements, and a nutritional plan. And rest, Miss Carter. You need significant rest. When I emerged from the examination room, Alexander stood by the window, silhouetted against the city lights. He turned at the sound of my footsteps, his expression unreadable. The doctor says I'm anemic, I said, fidgeting with the prescription papers in my hand. But the baby's heartbeat is strong. Something shifted in his eyes, a softening perhaps, or a decision confirmed. Good. Dr. Petrova approached, speaking to Alexander in low tones. I caught fragments, close monitoring, and proper environment, and stress reduction. Alexander nodded, eyes flicking to me occasionally. They spoke about me as if I weren't there, as if I were a problem to be managed rather than a person with agency. I appreciate the exam, I interrupted, but I should go home now. Both men turned to me, surprise evident on the doctor's face, amusement on Alexander's. You're not going back to that apartment, Alexander stated flatly. Anger flared in my chest. You can't decide that. I already have. He moved toward me, stopping close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his gaze. That place is unfit for you in your condition. The stress of imminent eviction alone could harm the child. So what's your solution? I challenged. Keep me like a pet? A charity case? His jaw tightened. I'm offering security, Emma, for you and the child. Why? You don't know me. We're nothing to you. Perhaps I see potential. His eyes traveled over my face, lingering on my lips for a heartbeat too long. Or perhaps I simply despise men who abandon their responsibilities. Mr. Volkov, Dr. Petrova interrupted gently. The prescriptions will be filled immediately, Alexander finished, not taking his eyes off me, and delivered to the penthouse. Penthouse? I echoed. My residence, he clarified. The safest place for you right now. The doctor excused himself discreetly, leaving us alone in the quiet examination room. The space between us seemed charged with an electric current I couldn't name. I can't just go home with you, I said, trying to sound firm despite the tremor in my voice. Home implies permanence, he replied. Consider it temporary accommodation while we locate Michael. The mention of Michael's name from his lips sent an unexpected chill down my spine. What exactly do you plan to do when you find him? Alexander's smile didn't reach his eyes. Ensure he meets his obligations. And what are my obligations in this arrangement? He stepped closer, his scent enveloping me. Expensive cologne, leather, and something uniquely him. To take care of yourself and the child. Nothing more. Nothing more. The words hung between us, a promise I wasn't sure I believed. The elevator ride to the penthouse was silent, tension building with each ascending floor. My mind raced with questions, with doubts, with the surreal reality that I had somehow ended up here, standing beside a man whose very presence commanded the air around him, whose eyes held secrets darker than I dared imagine. The doors opened directly into the penthouse, and my breath caught in my throat. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the city spread beneath us like a carpet of jewels. Sleek furniture, minimalist art, everything speaking of wealth so casual it didn't need to announce itself. Your room is this way, Alexander said, moving through the space with familiar ease. I followed, my worn duffel bag clutched tightly, feeling like an intruder in a museum after hours. He opened a door to reveal a bedroom larger than my entire apartment. A king-sized bed dominated the space, draped in what looked like silk sheets. A separate sitting area faced another wall of windows, and 2 doors presumably led to a closet and bathroom. There are clothes in the closet, he said, watching my reaction. I had my assistant purchase some basics in your size. How did you know my size? I asked, disconcerted, a slight shrug. I'm observant. I set my bag down cautiously, as if the room might disappear if I committed to staying. This is too much. It's necessary. He leaned against the doorframe, blocking the exit without seeming to. You'll find everything you need. If something is missing, tell Irina. Irina? My housekeeper. She lives on the floor below and manages the household. As if this massive penthouse were a simple home rather than a luxury palace in the sky. Dinner will be served in an hour, he continued. Rest until then. He turned to leave, and panic suddenly seized me. Alexander, I called, the first time I'd spoken his name aloud. It felt strange on my tongue, foreign and intimate at once. He paused, looking back with a raised eyebrow. Why are you really doing this? I asked. The truth. For a moment, something raw and unguarded flashed across his features, so quickly I might have imagined it. Then his expression smoothed into that careful mask again. Get some rest, Emma, he said softly, closing the door behind him. Alone in the opulent room, I sank onto the edge of the bed, my hand finding my stomach again. 7 weeks. A heartbeat. A new life growing inside me while my own life spiraled into the unknown. I moved to the window, pressing my palm against the cool glass. The city sprawled below, lights blinking like earthbound stars. Somewhere out there was Michael, oblivious to the storm he'd created when he walked out. Somewhere out there was my old life, already feeling like a distant memory. And here, in this glass tower, was Alexander Volkov, a man who had inserted himself into my life with the confidence of someone who always got what he wanted. A man whose intentions remained as opaque as the dark eyes that seemed to see straight through me. I had texted him by mistake, a single wrong digit that had somehow led me here. And now, as night fell over the city, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stepped into a beautiful trap, one lined with silk and security. But a trap nonetheless. I awoke disoriented, sunlight streaming through windows much larger than my apartment's tiny panes. For a moment, panic gripped me. Where was I? Then yesterday's events crashed back like a wave. The pregnancy tests, the wrong number, Alexander Volkov. The bed cradled me like a cloud, making me realize how poorly I'd been sleeping on my lumpy mattress. I stretched, fingers brushing against soft sheets that probably cost more than a month of my waitressing wages. A subtle knock at the door jolted me upright. "Miss Carter?" A woman's voice, lightly accented. "Mr. Volkov asked me to check if you're awake. Breakfast is ready." "I'll be right out," I called, my voice hoarse with sleep. The bathroom attached to my room was bigger than my entire kitchen at home, with a rainfall shower, a soaking tub, and marble everywhere. I found my toiletries already unpacked and arranged neatly on the counter, alongside new items: expensive shampoo, lotion, makeup. The invasion of privacy should have angered me, but exhaustion had dulled my defenses. After showering, I discovered the closet stocked with clothing in exactly my size. Simple, elegant pieces that looked casual but screamed money. I opted for my own worn jeans and a new soft sweater, a small rebellion against this gilded cage. Following the scent of coffee and pastries, I made my way to a sunlit dining area. Alexander sat at the head of a glass table, reading something on a tablet. He wore a crisp white shirt, open at the collar, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. He looked up as I entered, those dark eyes tracking my movements. "Good morning," he said, setting the tablet aside. "You slept well?" "Too well," I admitted, taking the seat he gestured to. "What time is it?" "Almost 11. A slight smile played at his lips. "You needed the rest." A woman appeared. Irina, I presumed, setting a plate before me. Fresh fruit, yogurt, toast with avocado, a poached egg. A prenatal vitamin and iron pill sat in a small dish beside a glass of orange juice. "Thank you," I murmured. Irina nodded, disappearing as silently as she'd arrived. "Eat," Alexander commanded softly. "The doctor was clear about your nutritional needs." I picked up my fork, suddenly ravenous. "Have you been up long?" "Since 5. He sipped his coffee, watching me over the rim. I had business to attend to. "What kind of business?" I asked between bites. "The kind that doesn't concern you." His tone wasn't unkind, but the boundary was clear. We ate in silence for a few minutes, the clink of silverware the only sound. I studied him covertly, the strong line of his jaw, the way his dark hair was neatly styled, the barely perceptible scar near his right eyebrow. He was handsome in a dangerous way, like admiring the beauty of a predator. "Your phone has been ringing," he said suddenly, nodding toward a side table where my ancient smartphone sat charging. 3 times since 7 this morning. My heart jumped. "Did you answer it?" "Should I have?" His eyes narrowed slightly. "Was it Michael?" "No, probably my boss. I was supposed to work a double shift today." I set down my fork. "I need to call her, explain. It's been handled." I stared at him. "What do you mean, handled?" "I called your employer this morning. The diner on 5th, correct? I explained you had a medical emergency and wouldn't be returning." He said it casually, as if informing me about the weather. "You had no right," I said, anger flaring. "That was my job, my income. A job that paid barely enough to cover your expenses, required you to be on your feet for 10 hours a day, and offered no maternity leave." He leaned forward, eyes intense. "It wasn't suitable in your condition." "That's not for you to decide." My hands trembled. "I need to work. I have bills." "Your bills have been paid." The words hung in the air between us. I shook my head, trying to process what he was saying. "My rent, my utilities, paid in full through the end of your lease." He sipped his coffee. "Your landlord was quite accommodating once the back rent was settled." I pushed my plate away, appetite gone. "Why are you doing this? What do you want from me?" Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. "I told you. I dislike men who abandon their responsibilities. But they're not your responsibilities. I've made them mine. He set down his cup with deliberate care. For now. And what happens when you tire of this charity project? When you decide I'm not worth the trouble? His expression hardened. I don't abandon what's mine, Emma. The possessive word sent a shiver down my spine. I'm not yours. Neither is this baby. The baby belongs to a man who left you penniless and pregnant. His voice was soft but edged with steel. A man who has proven himself unworthy of fatherhood. That doesn't automatically make you worthy. The corner of his mouth lifted in a cold half-smile. We'll see. My phone rang again, breaking the tension. I stood, moving to retrieve it, grateful for the interruption. The screen showed my friend Lily's name. I should take this, I said, not really asking permission. Alexander nodded once, returning to his tablet as I stepped onto the adjoining terrace to answer. Emma. Lily's voice was frantic. Where are you? I went by your apartment and everything's gone. I leaned against the railing. The city sprawled before me. It's complicated, Lil. I'm staying somewhere else for a while. What's going on? Terry at the diner said some guy called and said you weren't coming back, and there were men at your apartment removing your stuff. What? I turned, staring through the glass at Alexander, who continued reading as if he couldn't feel the weight of my gaze. When was this? This morning. I went by after my shift, and your landlord said you'd moved out. Emma, are you in trouble? Is it Michael? Did he come back? No, it's not Michael. I lowered my voice. Listen, I'm pregnant. Her gasp was audible. Oh my God, Em, is it? Michael's, yes. But he's gone, Lily. And I met someone who's helping me. Helping you how? Who is he? I hesitated, unsure how to explain Alexander. It's complicated, but I'm safe. I promise. Give me an address. I'm coming to see you. I can't right now. I glanced back at Alexander, who had set down his tablet and was watching me through the glass. I'll call you tomorrow, okay? I promise I'm fine. She didn't believe me. I could hear it in her silence, but eventually she agreed to wait. I ended the call, steeling myself before returning inside. You had my things moved out of my apartment? I asked, setting the phone down carefully, fighting to keep my voice level. Alexander regarded me with that infuriating calm. It seemed efficient. Your lease was paid through the end of the month, but you won't be returning there. You don't get to make those decisions. I already have. He stood, approaching me with the fluid grace of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Your belongings are in storage. Anything you need can be retrieved. That's not the point. I stepped back, bumping against the table. You can't just take over my life. Your life was falling apart. His voice remained soft, reasonable. Eviction notice. No money, no support system. A job that would endanger your pregnancy. So you appointed yourself my savior? I shook my head, incredulous. What happens when you find Michael? Will you just hand me over to him like some package you've been safekeeping? Something dark and possessive flashed across his features. Michael forfeited any claim to you or the child when he abandoned you. Claim? I repeated, anger building. I'm not property, Alexander. Neither is this baby. He moved closer, until I could feel the heat radiating from his body. There are many kinds of ownership, Emma. My heart raced, fear and something else I didn't want to name coursing through me. I want my things brought here, today. And I want to call Lily back and give her this address. His eyebrow rose slightly. Is that a demand? It's a condition of me staying. A smile spread slowly across his face. Genuine amusement mixed with something like approval. Very well. Your friend can visit tomorrow. Supervised. Supervised? I echoed. Why? Security concerns. His expression closed again. My home, my rules. Before I could argue further, his phone buzzed. He checked it, his face hardening into a mask I hadn't seen before. Colder, more dangerous. I have business to attend to, he said, tucking the phone into his pocket. Irina will see to anything you need. Don't leave the building. Am I a prisoner here? I challenged. He studied me for a long moment. You're protected here. There's a difference. With that, he strode from the room, leaving me alone in the vast penthouse with more questions than answers. The day stretched endlessly. I explored the penthouse, finding a library filled with books in multiple languages, a home gym, even a small movie theater. Everything spoke of wealth and taste so refined it seemed effortless. No photos adorned the walls. No personal touches revealed the man who lived here. It was beautiful, but sterile, like a museum. Irina appeared periodically, offering lunch, then tea, making sure I took my vitamins. She spoke little but watched me with knowing eyes. When I asked about Alexander, his business, his background, she merely smiled and shook her head. "Mr. Volkov values his privacy," she said simply. By evening, I was restless, pacing the floor-to-ceiling windows as the city lights blinked to life below. Where was he? Why did I care? The thought of being alone in this massive space overnight made me uneasy. I was curled on a sofa in the library, reading a dog-eared copy of Jane Eyre I'd found, the only book that showed signs of actually being read, when I heard the elevator doors open. Heavy footsteps crossed the marble floor, then stopped. I held my breath, listening. "Emma?" His voice carried through the penthouse, something different in his tone. Tiredness, perhaps, or tension. I set the book aside. "In here." He appeared in the doorway, his white shirt now rumpled, a darkness in his eyes that hadn't been there this morning. He'd removed his suit jacket. A shoulder holster was visible against his shirt, the gun a matte black reminder of the world he inhabited. "You found the library," he observed, loosening his tie. I needed something to do. I nodded toward the book. "Yours?" A shadow of a smile touched his lips. "A favorite." The admission surprised me, this glimpse of something human in him. He crossed to a cabinet, pouring amber liquid into a crystal glass. "Drink?" he offered. I touched my stomach instinctively. "I can't." His eyes followed the gesture, softening almost imperceptibly. "Of course." He downed his own drink in one swallow, then poured another. "Are you hungry?" Irina brought dinner earlier. I studied him, noting the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. "Are you okay?" He looked almost startled by the question. "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." He laughed, a short, harsh sound. "Concerned for my welfare, Emma? Should I be?" His eyes met mine, something raw and unguarded in them for a fleeting moment. Then it was gone, shuttered behind that controlled mask. "I found Michael," he said quietly. My heart stopped, then thundered back to life. "What? How?" "I have resources." He took another drink. "He's in Atlantic City, gambling away what's left of your money, it seems." I felt sick. "What are you going to do?" "Retrieve what belongs to you." His voice was deadly calm, and ensure he understands the consequences of his actions. Fear gripped me. Not for Michael, I realized with shock, but for what this might mean for Alexander. "Don't hurt him." His eyes narrowed. "You still care for him? After what he did?" "No, but I don't want anyone hurt because of me. Some men only understand one language, Emma." He set down his glass. "Violence is sometimes necessary." "Not for this, not for me." I stood, moving toward him without thinking. "Promise me you won't hurt him." He studied me, something unreadable in his expression. "You have a gentle heart. It will get you hurt. Promise me," I repeated, stopping before him, close enough to smell the whiskey on his breath, the lingering scent of his cologne. "I will get your money back," he said finally. "Beyond that, I make no promises." It was the best I would get, I knew. This man, whoever he truly was, lived by his own code, one I was only beginning to understand. "When?" I asked. "Tomorrow." He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my face with unexpected gentleness. "Which means you should rest now." His touch lingered, fingers trailing along my cheek, sending warmth cascading through me. I should have stepped back, maintained distance, but something in his eyes held me in place, a vulnerability at odds with the dangerous man I'd glimpsed earlier. "Why Jane Eyre?" I asked suddenly, desperate to break the tension building between us. His hand dropped. "A complicated man. A woman who refuses to be owned despite her circumstances." A smile touched his lips. It seemed appropriate. With that cryptic response, he turned away. "Good night, Emma." I watched him go, my heart racing, my skin still tingling where he touched me. Tomorrow, he would confront Michael. The man who had abandoned me, who had left me to face pregnancy alone. And despite everything, I feared what that confrontation might reveal. Not just about Michael or Alexander, but about myself and what I was beginning to feel for this enigmatic man who had inserted himself into my life with the force of a hurricane. Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed in the luxurious bed, my mind racing with thoughts of Michael, of Alexander, of the baby growing inside me. By dawn, I had given up, padding barefoot to the kitchen for water. The penthouse was silent, bathed in the soft glow of early morning light filtering through the windows. A note sat on the counter in bold, elegant handwriting. Business to attend to. Stay inside. Security has been instructed not to let you leave. Your friend can visit at 2 p.m. And my fingers traced the firm strokes of his signature. Even in his absence, his control extended over me like an invisible tether. I crumpled the note, frustration rising in my chest. The elevator chimed unexpectedly, making my heart leap. Had he returned already? But it was Irina who emerged, carrying grocery bags. "Good morning, Miss Carter," she said, seeming unsurprised to find me awake. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep," I admitted, helping her unpack fresh fruit, vegetables, and what looked like specialty items from high-end stores. "The baby changes your rhythms," she said with a knowing smile. My sister was the same. I placed a carton of eggs in the refrigerator. "Irina, how long have you worked for Mr. Volkov?" She paused, considering me. 8 years. "And what exactly does he do?" I pressed. "His business, I mean." Her expression closed slightly. "Mr. Volkov has many interests." "That's not an answer," she sighed, setting down a bunch of kale. "He is a businessman. Import, export, real estate, investments." She hesitated. "He protects those who work for him, those who are loyal. And those who aren't loyal?" Her eyes met mine, suddenly serious. "It is better to be in Mr. Volkov's favor than to be his enemy." A chill ran down my spine. "Is he dangerous, Irina?" "We are all dangerous to someone, Miss Carter." She resumed unpacking groceries. "But yes, he can be, to those who deserve it." "Like Michael?" She glanced at me sharply. "The man who abandoned you, who left you with nothing, carrying his child." Her voice hardened. "Such men should fear someone like Mr. Volkov." The conversation left me uneasy. I retreated to the library, seeking distraction in books, but found my thoughts continually drifting to Alexander. Was he with Michael now? What was happening? The hours crawled by, tension building in my chest like a gathering storm. At precisely 2 p.m., the elevator chimed. I rushed to the foyer, relief flooding me at the sight of Lily's familiar face, but my smile faltered when I noticed the man beside her, one of Alexander's security personnel. "Emma!" Lily embraced me tightly, then pulled back to examine me. "My God, where are we? This place is insane." "Come on," I said, leading her to the living room. "I'll explain everything." The security guard took a position by the elevator, pretending not to listen as I told Lily a censored version of the past 2 days. The pregnancy, the mistaken text, Alexander's unexpected help. "So this guy, this total stranger, just decided to take care of you because what? He hates deadbeat dads?" Lily's skepticism was palpable. "Emma, that's not normal. What does he really want?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But I needed help, Lily. You saw my apartment, the eviction notices. I was drowning. And now you're living with some rich guy you don't know." She lowered her voice. "Who exactly is he? Have you Googled him?" I shook my head. "Well, I did," she said, glancing nervously toward the guard. "There's not much, which is weird for someone this wealthy. But what I did find," she hesitated. "There are rumors, Em, about connections to the Russian mob, about businesses that aren't exactly legitimate." My stomach tightened. "He's helping me, Lily. For now, but people like that always want something in return." She gripped my hand. "Come stay with me. We'll figure something out." "I can't," I whispered. "He's gone to find Michael, to get back what he stole from me." Her eyes widened. "What? When?" "Today. He left this morning." "Emma," she said, her voice deadly serious. "What do you think he's going to do to Michael?" Before I could answer, the elevator doors opened. We both turned, expecting to see the security guard returning. Instead, Alexander stepped into the foyer, his presence immediately filling the space. He wore all black, his expression unreadable as his eyes landed on us. "Ladies," he said, approaching with controlled steps. "I trust you've had a pleasant visit." Lily stood, chin raised defiantly. "I was just leaving. So soon." His tone was polite, but something dangerous lurked beneath the surface. "Lily has a shift at the hospital," I explained, rising to stand beside my friend. "She's an admirable profession." He inclined his head slightly. "Perhaps next time you can stay longer, Lily. I'm sure Emma appreciates the company." "Next time," Lily echoed, her disbelief evident. She turned to me, squeezing my hand. "Call me later, okay?" I nodded, watching as the security guard escorted her to the elevator. The doors closed, leaving me alone with Alexander. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unasked questions. "Did you find him?" I finally asked. Alexander moved to the bar, pouring himself a drink. "Yes." "And?" He turned, studying me over the rim of his glass. "Your money has been recovered, what was left of it." He reached into his jacket, producing an envelope which he set on the coffee table. "It's all there. With interest." I stared at the envelope, afraid to ask the next question. "Michael will no longer be a problem." His voice was flat, emotionless. My heart hammered against my ribs. "What does that mean? What did you do to him? What was necessary?" He set down his glass. "He won't bother you again. Did you hurt him?" I pressed, moving closer. Alexander's jaw tightened. He was resistant at first. Eventually, he understood the situation. "Tell me what happened," I demanded. "I need to know." His eyes locked with mine, calculating, measuring. We had a conversation about responsibility, about consequences. He agreed to sign away any paternal rights to the child and to never contact you again, and if he hadn't agreed, a cold smile touched his lips. Let's just say the alternatives were less appealing to him. I sank onto the sofa, the reality of what had transpired hitting me fully. "You threatened him." I persuaded him. Alexander took a seat opposite me, leaning forward. "He was gambling away your money, Emma. Living in a cheap motel with another woman." "When I mentioned your pregnancy, do you know what he said?" His voice hardened. He laughed, said it wasn't his problem. Pain lanced through me, not because I still cared for Michael, but because of the callousness with which he'd dismissed our child. My hand moved protectively to my stomach. "He signed legal documents relinquishing all claims to the child," Alexander continued. "My lawyer witnessed it. You're free of him, Emma. Completely." "And what am I now?" I asked quietly. "Bound to you instead?" Something flashed in his eyes. Possession. Desire. Something deeper I couldn't name. "That depends entirely on you." "Does it?" "You've taken over my life, Alexander. Paid my debts, moved my belongings, cut off my income, isolated me from everyone except Lily. That doesn't feel like choice." He was silent for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he stood, pacing to the window. "I grew up with nothing," he said finally, his back to me. "In a small village outside St. Petersburg. My mother died when I was 8. My father..." He paused. "My father was not a good man. He abandoned us, my sister and me, leaving us to fend for ourselves." I remained silent, sensing the rarity of this glimpse into his past. "I was 12 when I started working for men who saw potential in me," he continued. "Dangerous men, but they fed me, clothed me, gave me purpose." He turned, his eyes finding mine. "My sister was not so fortunate. She was 17 when she discovered she was pregnant. The father denied responsibility, abandoned her. She died giving birth to a son who lived only 3 days." My breath caught. "Alexander. So yes, Emma, I have strong feelings about men who abandon their responsibilities." His voice was controlled, but I could hear the pain underneath. "And about pregnant women left to face the world alone." I stood, moving toward him almost unconsciously. I'm sorry about your sister, but you can't save me to make up for not saving her. Perhaps not. His eyes searched mine. But I can ensure you and your child never want for anything. Why? I asked, stopping before him. Why me? Because of a mistaken text? Some would call it fate. His hand rose, fingers brushing my cheek with that same unexpected gentleness from the night before. I prefer to think of it as serendipity. My skin tingled where he touched me, warmth spreading through my body. I should have stepped back, maintained distance, but something held me in place, the vulnerability in his eyes, so at odds with the powerful man I'd come to know. What happens now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. His thumb traced my lower lip, sending shivers down my spine. That depends on what you want, Emma. I don't know what I want. The admission felt raw, honest. Everything's changing so fast. Then stay, he said simply. Stay until you do know. As what? Your guest? Your charity case? His eyes darkened. As someone under my protection, someone He hesitated, seeming to search for the right word. Someone I care for. The admission surprised me, and him too, judging by the fleeting look that crossed his face. And the baby? I asked. Something shifted in his expression, softened, warmed. The baby will want for nothing, I swear it. You barely know me, I whispered. I know enough. I know you're stronger than you believe. I know you care more about others than yourself, even when they don't deserve it. I know you read Jane Eyre and understand what it means to maintain dignity, even when the world tries to strip it away. His words touched something deep inside me, a recognition that he had seen me, truly seen me, in a way Michael never had. What do you want from me? I asked, needing to hear him say it. His gaze intensified. Everything. Eventually. But for now, he paused. For now, just stay. Let me take care of you both while you decide what you want. I should have been frightened by the possession in his voice, by the implications of everything. Instead, I felt something else. A strange sense of belonging, of safety, despite the danger he represented, or perhaps because of it. I'll stay, I said finally. For now, relief flashed across his features, quickly masked. Good. His phone rang, breaking the moment. He checked it, his expression hardening instantly into the businessman, or something darker I'd glimpsed before. I need to take this, he said, stepping back. We'll talk more at dinner. I watched him walk away, already transforming back into the enigmatic, controlled man who commanded rooms with his presence. Yet I had seen beneath that mask now, glimpsed the scars that had shaped him, understood a fraction of what drove him. My hand rested on my stomach, feeling the slight firmness that hadn't been there weeks before. A baby. Our baby. Mine. Not Michael's, not anyone's, but mine. And somehow, through a mistaken text, this child had gained a protector more powerful than I could have imagined. 6 months later, I stood in a private hospital room, cradling my newborn daughter in my arms. Alexander stood beside the bed, his usual composure completely shattered as he stared at the tiny bundle with something like awe. She's perfect, he whispered, gently touching her cheek with one finger. I smiled, exhausted but happier than I'd ever been. She is. Like her mother, he added, his eyes meeting mine with an intensity that still made my heart race. The past months had transformed us both. I had found my footing, started online classes in business management, discovered strengths I never knew I possessed. And Alexander had slowly revealed himself to me, his business, some legitimate, some less so, his past, his hopes. The walls between us had fallen brick by brick, replaced by something I hadn't dared name until recently. Love. Complicated, intense, sometimes frightening in its power, but love nonetheless. Do you want to hold her? I asked. He hesitated. This man who commanded an empire, suddenly uncertain. What if I do it wrong? You won't, I assured him, carefully transferring our daughter, for she had become ours in every way that mattered, into his arms. He cradled her with exquisite care, his expression transforming as she grabbed his finger with her tiny hand. In that moment, I saw the final piece of his armor fall away, revealing the heart he had protected for so long. "I love you," he said softly, looking from the baby to me, "both of you." "I know," I replied, smiling through tears. "We love you too." Outside the window, snow began to fall, coating the city in white. I thought about the journey that had brought us here. A wrong number, a mistaken text that had somehow led me exactly where I needed to be. One wrong digit had changed everything. One mistake had led to the greatest gift of all. Not just the daughter in Alexander's arms, but the family we had become, against all odds and expectations. The hospital had called him about a baby in my name. And now, that baby had his name too, and his heart, completely and irrevocably. That night, as I watched him rock our sleeping daughter, I knew with absolute certainty that some mistakes aren't mistakes at all. They're destiny, disguised as chance, leading us exactly where we're meant to be. Thank you all so much for following this story. If you're enjoying it, don't forget to like and subscribe, because your support is important for me to continue here.